Okay, guys. So what steps do you need to take to become a qualified personal trainer? All right. Billy, I'm going to throw this at you because
Yeah,
you hire trainers all the time. I'm going to start with you on this one.
absolutely. So I've been a certified trainer now, going on 22 years, and I remember back then not really knowing where to start, and now having gone through all this time hiring trainers, we have an internship program. I also coach other fit pros on their hiring, so a lot of experience. And one thing I did want to mention on this topic was something I actually did do, which is to find a mentor, finding a mentor or a coach, finding somebody who is, just to keep it simple, somebody who is perhaps where you want to be or close to where you want to be, and just really learning from them, picking their brain, obviously talking to them about the different certifications. And then from there, it's eventually you ultimately have to choose a certification. And we all know certifications are great and it's a starting point. We all need it. Then it's finding one that is accredited. There are a bunch. I'll let some others share on that. And then the final piece is, depending on where you want to go, if you're going to be an independent contractor, you're going to start your own business, depending on what you want to do, you're going to want to cover some what I call business basics. So you're going to want to look at how you're structuring your business. Is it going to be an LLC? And if so, taking the steps to do that. I'm definitely going to throw this out there. You're going to want to find a good accounting professional, ideally a CPA that can guide you along the proper steps to setting up the proper financing for your business. And then it's just making sure you have all of your ducks in a row. Again, you have your accounting, you have your basic banks. I can't tell you how many trainers, they're passionate about fitness. They go ahead and get certified, and then all of a sudden they're mixing their personal finances with their business finances, and it's a big mess. So I would say it's not really what we signed up for, or what we didn't think we signed up for, but it's going to serve to be crucial in your long-term success.
Myself for some reason. That's very important for people to think of how you're going to set yourself up. Now, I did want to tell you guys, I've got a few people, which I love. They've entered the chat box. So if you go down to the middle of your screen, to the left of the green share screen button, you can just click on the chat box. Feel free to type in where you're from, but also feel free to ask any questions that you want. And Billy, a lot of times we as a personal trainer, we think, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to personally train and just Venmo me your money, and I'm going to do it on FaceTime, and here I go. And we have to think about the liability. And one of the questions that we're talking about here today is, what do we do about the liability? Now we're going to have a liability waiver. Peter's going to put it in the chat box. Peter is our wonderful technician running the webinar tonight, and he'll put a link into a great waiver of liability that actually I wrote, and then my husband, who's also a lawyer, edited. It's business advice, because I can't practice law in New York and in Florida and in Atlanta and in LA. So you want to get a general waiver of liability. There's two waivers. If you're going to be personally training someone face-to-face, you need them to sign two waivers: a COVID waiver that specifies the risks involved with getting COVID-19, and then also a general liability waiver, which we also included viruses and bacteria in the waiver of liability, that people are informed of the risks of participating in any type of fitness program, whether it be Group X or personal training, and all the risks involved: spraining a wrist, breaking an ankle, dying, miscarrying, whatever. I know that seems kind of out of Dane's hemisphere right now, but we need to make sure that we get them to do these waivers. And we also need to think about, like Billy brought up, your business structure. And I love, Billy, that you talked about making sure that you keep your business separate. I always, in the back of my phone, I've got my personal credit card, and then I've got a business credit card for WATERinMOTION, and I've got a business credit for STW Fitness. And I do not mix them, usually. Okay. I really, except at Whole Foods now and then. But that's what we try to do, trying to set things up. I think that's great. Now, Keli, you know, in talking about certification, you do lead a certification. What are you seeing from the instructors, and what do you think needs to be really focused on when someone's looking at a certification?
Well, what I see from the certification, the SCW PT certification that I lead, is that people like it because it's live, and I take them through all of the really good foundational information you need to be a certified personal trainer. I think it's really hard to sit down with a manual and get through technical information if you've never had a background in training. You know, I see a lot of people come through that training who are actually studying for other certifications who are stuck, and they come into the SCW live certification and they're like, oh, that's what that means. Oh, now I get it, because it's the information is all broken down and explained, and it makes it so much easier to learn in that setting, because it's just really hard to sit in a room by yourself with a screen trying to learn something, especially exercise physiology or kinesiology, where you're having to understand movement. So I think that that is a really good starting place for a lot of people, especially if they have no background, or if they're moving from group exercise or Zumba or yoga or indoor cycling, and they want to move their business into personal training. It's a great platform. It's a great platform. And so that's what I seem to be getting.
Yeah, we found that some people, like I'm ACE certified and I'm AFA certified, and I love the courses. And I remember with AFA that it was live and it was in a room with people, and it was also a concentrated way for me to get my education. So, you know, we did focus, so the live stream tends to work. And but I do have to say, you guys, it's kind of scary. Like, how the heck do you get certified in one day? Like, Giovanni, how long did it take you to feel confident as a personal trainer?
It took a while, and you know, that's a great point and a great question. And I wholeheartedly agree with Billy. With the first thing I thought of, like, if you were going to come to me first, I think I would have said the exact same things that Billy said about finding a mentor. Because, okay, you get certified and you get all this information, you know, thrown at you, so to speak. And how much of it do we really retain? And let's be honest. I mean, this is coming from someone who teaches it, and I'm sure Keli will agree. You can only retain so much in one day or 2 days. And so, you know, from that point on, it's the follow-up, and that's where the mentors come in, and that's where, you know, the reaching out to other, you know, other professionals that you want to be at their level. So I'll always say, and I've said this in past webinars, that what type of trainer do you want to be? Look at the other trainers that are where you are, and then find out what they did to get there. And then, you know, try to, if you want to, try to become friends with them, or ask them questions, or email them. This is the best time to try to reach out to people, because everyone is on their emails more than ever. Everyone's in front of their computers more than ever, and everyone's home more than ever. So maybe there are people out there that you didn't think you can get to or reach, but now maybe it's a little easier for that. And I love my cheesy quotes, and one of the quotes I'll always say is, success leaves clues. So look at the success of other individuals, especially, like I said, that you, in positions that you want to be. Like, if you want to be a rock star group instructor, then you should talk to Dane, and you should pick his brain, and you should say, how did you get to where you are? What can I do to get to the daily burn? What can I do to get, and you'll be that much quicker once you have the certification, once you have that acronym under your name, because at the end, that's almost the easy part. You're just passing a test, right? But the test is the practical application of it. And that's why I say, even in the corrective exercise course that I teach for SEW is, it's easy to pass the test and find 1 out of 4, answers correct. But, what are you going to do when someone's literally in front of you and you see their knee valgus in, and what are you going to think about to do for their ankle and for their hip? So, that once again is finding that network, finding those mentors.
And Dane, what are your thoughts on this?
Man, here's how I think about it. When we talk about success, success leaves clues, but I always say all of us are like the 10, 20-year overnight success. Like that's kind of how it kind of is phrased into that. But I think where it comes from is, like I see with a lot of fitness professionals, and we're talking about becoming, sorry guys, I just finished coaching a class, so I'm in full presentation mode. If you're looking at being the fitness professional you want to be at, what we see consistently, or at least I see consistently, is that I think we already harped on it from Billy to Kelly to Gio, is that you can gain the certifications just like in education. Education opens doors. Hell, it gives you doors it gives you more doors to choose from. You still have to walk through it. I like to give the example is that, sometimes we think, all right, I need the PT certification, the TRX, and the corrective exercise. Those are all great tools. But we see fit pros continue to grab the hammer and the screwdriver and the saw, and they have a really big tool belt, and it weighs them down, and they look in the backyard, nothing's built. They haven't built anything. It just kept grabbing a lot of tools, but you have to eventually put hammer to nail. And then going back to where Billy talked about is the certification. It's part one. Grab the tools that you need. Think about it like you're building a mansion. It has to start with the foundation somewhere. So you got your tools. The next part I always try to say from there is now think about and this is just, I think where we're at in 2020, everybody does squats and burpees here. Your squat, Sarah, is no different than my squat. Your burpee is no better than my burpee.
My burpee's so much better.
I agree. But you got to sell the transformation. What's the now to wow? So you got to think about where are you leading somebody to, because that's where we're at in 2020. It's, again, if you're just saying, hey, I do squats and burpees and push-ups, then you'll still get to where you want to get to. It might take you a little bit longer. So again, where are you niched and who are you serving from there? And then that's where it gets into we got that part down. We got the certification, we got that teaching map down as far as how am I taking somebody, whether it's moms, whether it's people that are broken with their bodies and need corrective exercise work, they need weight loss. What's the now to wow transformation? Then you get into that last part before you ever do that first sit up or push up or whatever with them is your business systems, like Billy talked about. Again, how are you marketing? Where is your business accounts at? How are you connecting your systems? Because if you want to be a fitness professional, you got to be a fitness professional. Keyword, professional.
You're absolutely right in that, Dane. And something that people need to think about is a lot of times we think, okay, I'm going to buy a new piece of equipment. I'm going to buy a hammer, or I'm going to get a BOSU, or I'm going to do a TRX. Does that make you a better trainer? It gives you creativity. It opens and expands that toolbox, but is it going to make you a better leader, a better educator, and a better person that give you that ability to figure it out? Kelly, what are your thoughts on that?
No, it doesn't. You can look at Instagram and get lots of ideas of these insanely crazy creative movements, but unless you have a foundation and an understanding of anatomy, kinesiology, biomechanics, and how the human body works, then you look at these things and they're just circus tricks. So you can have the tools, but unless you know what to do with them because you have a foundational understanding of how the body works, then it's useless.
Yes. And I love this. Stacy just asked, love that tool belt analogy. Can I steal that for my team? Steal away. Go for it. Steal away. I think that's great. And Billy, this whole thing is your fault, okay? Because you started with the foundation. So I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and let's look at how we're going to virtually train, because I know I know that Keli, I'm going to pick on you next, but I know you always talk about it's not just how you train, it's how you also train your clients to move the videos, move the cameras. You can actually see what they're doing. Billy, what platforms are you using to train your clients on?
Yeah, so honestly, I'm not the most technical guy. I have people for that. As there's some other quote, I can't beat Gio's quote with I'm sorry, not Gio. Now to wow, I love that. I'm gonna be using that from Dane. But and then the other quote was it like Henry Ford or somebody? They're like, somebody called him stupid because it didn't matter that he didn't know the technical side. He had people around him. So there's a little tip right there is, find somebody that if you don't know this, that can help you. Maybe it's through one of these certifications. But I'm going to give one book reference that I think is just a good thought. One thing I'm not good at that I know I should be and that people talk about is like reading books multiple times. I have a problem with that. I read a book and I want to read the next one. But one book that I've read either 7 or 8 times every year for the past 7 or 8 years was Good to Great by Jim Collins. And he has a section in that book about technology accelerators. And basically the bottom line is that technology has to align with the vision and the values that you have. That no company became great because of technology. Yes, it's important, and yes, you need to use it. But I would caution you not to get too caught up in being overly complex. Whatever is going to be simple for you to use, is going to get the job done, is going to do the trick. I have a guy that I started training before 9/11. I'm right here in New York, right by Manhattan, and I was training this guy before 9/11, and he's a wealthy guy. He's got houses all over the world. And we started doing phone training way back then. There was no Zoom or anything like that. And we were just training on the phone. And it sounds like so silly, but think about the lifetime value of that guy training for 20 years on the phone. Of course, we've graduated now to doing video, but I'll use FaceTime for one-on-one stuff. No problem. We use Zoom for our group personal training, and Zoom works great. And finally, this is not a plug. I just happen to use it. It's Trainerize. It's just a platform to be able to do program design and to check in with people, give them accountability. You can chat through there. I mean, there's tons. I've used Coach Catalyst. I mean, there's tons of different options. And I don't get too caught up in it. I try to go with the one that makes sense, the one that works, and I try to keep it simple.
And Dane, what are you using?
Yeah, so again, I think me being, I would say down here in Atlanta, there's so many different ways we think about like what the Coca-Cola formula is, since like Coca-Cola station down here. The same thing here for us as Fit Pros is that there is not a one size fits all. I get, I'm sure this is for everybody. We get the question sometimes like, what's the one thing that you use and all the different avenues? Like, unfortunately, there's not one system that does it all. Like, unfortunately, that's just the reality of it. It's about where your business is, what is easiest for you to execute. Some of us are very technological savvy. Like, we can kind of put nuts and bolts, and we know about API keys and integrations, and we can use some higher level platforms. Me, I'd like to use, and it's funny, they're stationed in New York City. I like to use Talent Hack. Talent Hack allows, number one, for an immersive kind of online resume. Number two, again, it's a job board. So again, if you didn't believe that, if you're certified and you're looking to get in the field, again, there's a job board. People are hiring, studios are hiring, even though they might be closed, they might be doing some virtual stuff and they need Fit Pros for that. And then, on top of that platform, they have a, Spaces allows to do, again, virtual training, again, allows kind of an all-in-one, one-stop shop there as far as being able to get payments, have your clients keep their credit card on file, and kind of rock and roll from there. But also, again, you guys are a part of the SCW family. Again, that's an option as well for you all being here, because Sara and that team have set up an opportunity for all of us as Fit Pros to virtually train and also do a revenue share. So there's a lot of systems out there. We could list 1,000 of them. But again, think about, again, the things you continue to, I will advocate for Coach Catalyst and Trainerize all day. I happen to be just partial to Talent Hack because I have a personal relationship with them, and they, you know, I've seen that platform grow and what they're doing in this industry. But likewise, again, you guys are part of SCW, and if you didn't know already, that you have an opportunity to actually train virtually within the SCW platform and get a revenue share from it as well.
And Keli, now you have a very eclectic way that that you integrate with your clients, and you use different modalities, I think, right?
I do. I have a pretty eclectic clientele. I have one client I'm training in his backyard, one-on-one. I do a small group in their in someone else's backyard, because gyms are closed here in Los Angeles. So I'm doing a couple of outdoor settings where I bring my TRX and my stability ball and my bands and straps and stuff like that to them. And then I'm also training on FaceTime with my elderly clients who I'm not seeing face to face, and Zoom for group exercise.
Yeah, and you've been doing, I love when you've been leading one of your clients who say that she's in her 90s, and talk about how you got them to do FaceTime.
Well, I've got a 95-year-old client whose daughter taught her how to use FaceTime. And so she's using FaceTime. She calls me, absolutely. She's Johnny on the spot with being on time to call me, and she never forgets her appointment. She's amazing. But the challenge I have with her is being able to see her, because she hasn't quite figured out that I need to see her. She's okay with seeing me. She likes to see me, but I need to see her. My 91-year-old client is good about, you know, making sure I can see her, but my 95-year-old, you know, it's like I can see the roof, I see a ceiling, but I see the tip of your head. So getting them to get a stand for their device is definitely important. So they understand that you can, yeah,
that's interesting. And Giovanni, so Keli, you've got some live people you're seeing, and you've got online people. And Dane, it sounds like you're dealing with a lot of people virtually through Talent Hack and your other modalities, and same with Billy. Giovanni, how is this going to transition? Like, do you think some of your clients are going to stay online with you, or do you think they're also going to kind of do half and half, or where do you think this whole thing is going to land?
Yes and yes. So I think the more that I've thought about this over the last few months, and the more, you know, podcasts and webinars that I've learned from and listened to, they actually bring up a good point. Here's the point: is people are starting to get comfortable staying in their house, not having to pack a gym bag, not having to worry about taking a shower there, not having to get in the car and get on the LA freeway, you know, with the traffic and all this stuff, right? So wait a second, I could just roll out of bed, have some breakfast really quick, throw on some shorts, and then work out. So now I'm saving time, I'm saving energy, I'm saving stress in the car. So I feel like there's going to be a whole world of clients that are going to say, you know what? This is okay. I could get used to this. Maybe the tides will turn on them, and maybe someone will drag them into a class, and then they'll be like, oh, this is what the gym feels like. But I feel like there'll be quite a few, members and clients that we have that are saying, you know what? I'm okay with this. And they've already bought some equipment now by this time, or it's already on the way because it's been on back order. So then now that everyone has some type of equipment, or they bought a Peloton or this or that. So then it's like, okay, I already built what I need. And maybe I've had so many clients that have said, hey, can you help me can you send dumbbells to my house? Can you help me get this? Can you help me get that? So then, you know, you help them, and then they have more equipment, and then they're like, oh, I have this equipment. I don't have to go to the gym. I don't have to get in a car. This is okay. So I'm leaning more towards that. And the gym people who love the gym will always go to the gym, and they're running straight to the gym during a pandemic or not, as soon as the doors are open. So you're always going to have those clients as well. But I feel like there may be quite a few, people that are going to say, you know what, this is okay for me. I'm gonna stick with the virtual.
They're going to hang in there with the virtual. And Billy, you own 2 facilities. So I know you just want to tell Gio just to shut up, right? But there's a way to work it out and to have them come into the facility as well as work out at home. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's really interesting just to see the different reactions. You know, I've had clients react differently than even I thought they would. The people who I didn't think would really take to virtual took really well, and vice versa. And I mean, I do agree with Gio. I mean, looking at I looked a little bit at the behavioral science around COVID, and the average person, not talking about extreme people like my mom, who's like, you know, she hasn't been out of her house since the pandemic started. Just the average person, they're just starting to think differently. Like their thought process is just different, and it probably won't go back to how it was. They're thinking about their day. They're thinking about how they could not be around as many people. And like Gio said, they're getting used to a certain way to live, and that's probably not going to change anytime soon. So I think it behooves us as fitness professionals to get good at the other side. If we're not already, it's at least having a hybrid model where you're able to do a little bit of both, which is actually what we're doing now. So just to be clear, on Long Island, New York, we're actually not open right now. We just had our 4th kid very recently, so that could kind of give us a little bit of a delay. We're opening up October 5th. So it'll be well over 6 months totally shut down. So it's totally wild. But that's kind of what we're going with, is we have people that do virtual and different capacities in that form. Then there's the people that are doing live training. We're doing outdoor training, which is good here right now. And then there's the hybrid, maybe a little bit of both and that kind of thing. So it's, you know, you gotta go, you can't fight it. It's happening. It's a change, and we have to embrace change. Who Moved My Cheese is another book reference that you gotta check out.
Who Moved My Cheese? Who Moved My Cheese, Billy? That's a great book. Now, we did get a great question from Regina. Do you feel that pricing for live stream training should be lower than in-person training? And I'm going to ask, Kelly's shaking her head. So Keli, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and get ready. Giovanni and Dane, I'm going to ask you what you guys think. Do you think we should charge less for training people virtually?
No, definitely. I do not charge less. I charge exactly the same, except what I did was I created a 30-minute session, a 45-minute session, and a 60-minute session, so that people get as much as they can afford. But I charge the same. It's my time, and my time is valuable. And I really believe that you're still getting all my expertise. You're still getting a great experience with me, virtual as well as live. So I didn't change my pricing. I just created different time slots. So a 30, 45, and 60. And I charged according to my 60-minute session.
I'm going to be a little nosy here, but what do you charge for 30 minutes and 45 minutes and an hour? And remember, everybody, she's in LA. So she's Keli Roberts. So.
Well, I have a bit of a scale, and I have a couple of clients who are on the top of that scale at $100 an hour, and then mostly $85 an hour, and then for a 30-minute session, $40.
Okay,
then,
great.
Yeah.
Great. And it's mostly 30 minutes and then an hour. Not as many 45-minute folks.
I've got one 45-minute client. She buys packages of 20.
Ooh. Very nice. That's very good. Dane, you're nodding sorry, go ahead, Keli.
No, she buys packages of 15, sorry, for $850.
For $850.
Yeah.
And she pays you via Venmo or PayPal or?
She uses a credit card. I use Square for her. I do Venmo for my small group training and some of my one-on-ones. And that goes into my business account. I'm an Inc., so I'm incorporated. And my Venmo goes into my business account.
And was it difficult for you to get incorporated? Did you end up using a lawyer, or were you able to do all this yourself?
I have a great accountant. I loved what Billy said about that. Get a good accountant. My accountant incorporated me years ago. I've been an Inc. It definitely has been worthwhile, especially living in California.
Oh, that's terrific. That's terrific. Thank you for sharing all that. I personally really like Venmo as well, because you can, every month you get a record of all the money coming in, and then I can make sure that I declare it on my taxes so that I pay taxes on it, because then when it comes time to need a PPP loan, or some people unfortunately are on unemployment, you've documented what you've paid, and you're all square with the government. Dane, what are you charging, and how are you charging people?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what Keli said. It's about time, So I always say in that avenue, like money is like an exchange of energy, money and investments, exchange of energy and time in that regard. So I go back to the avenue of, for me, I try to keep everything rounded and try to make it the simplest I can make it for the consumer. So I try to keep all my sessions right now 60 minutes. If you need 30 minutes, cool. But again, I'm always going to push it that 60-minute time frame. And that's always going to be rounding out at $75 per that hour. Now, where I make the exchange happen is that going to be frequency? Is that going to be 3 times a week or 2 times a week? That's where I can get give them some scale on how much they want to invest at that stage of the game there. So because now you're talking about 12 sessions in a month versus 8. So that way, all of a sudden, if I'm going to keep, hey, we're going to do $75 a session, at 2 times a week. Oh, you want to do 3 times a week? Great. That's 12 sessions. Cool. We can take that down to $70. So I can give you a little price incentive in that regard there. Because again, maybe lower cost per session, but obviously in the totality of it, still earning more in that regard, and trying to get them to commit to at least 90 days, at least, and then have it go month to month from there. I don't want to be fiddling around with, renewals or anything like that. Once we're set, we have our focus on okay, it's time to train. Again, it's time to go from the now to wow on this. And again, I want payment processing, and I want my systems to be just kind of like when you check the oil of your car, like you lift up the hood, you check the oil, you make sure the engine's not exploding, you drop the hood, you move on. So I'm really big on systems and basically subscription payment in that way, so that it's just depositing. I'm not having to have the so Sarah, it gets really uncomfortable. So you're out of session. So it gets really uncomfortable, especially if you're not, used to selling and asking for the sale. You want it, once you get to them to the finish line, get it automated, rock and roll. And last part I'll add to that is that I do have a price discrepancy for my small group in that regard, because they're sharing the cost of the fitness professional. So that will range anywhere between $25 and $30 a session, because they're sharing the cost of me, and that time frame is 45 minutes.
Oh, and that's nice, because then also, we still are in social isolation. I mean, we can go to a restaurant, but we have to be very cognizant of where we're sitting, and a lot of our gyms are so close. So to have that social network for Zoom, let's say, with a small group, I'm sure that it keeps them pretty well connected. So how many people do you do in your small group training? Because we did get a question on that.
Yeah, so small group will range anywhere between 4 to about 8 to 10 people. I'm very lucky that, again, we live in the state of Georgia, so we usually have nice weather, all the way around. So it's easy enough. And again, it depends on the network. Sometimes they're okay in Susie Q's backyard. Sometimes we have to go to a park, and, we bring the music and we rock and roll there. But there is a socialization that still can happen even amongst a pandemic. And it's, they realize also hey, working outside is cool. Now, obviously, when the weather gets colder, that's where we have to make some pivots, make some adjustments. But again, small group training still is a thing, and you have to still make sure that people still feel safe. But again, you can do it at a distance. You can give them that great experience. Because again, if anything, Gio kind of talked about, and then Billy also talked about behavioral changes, in the sense that I feel good how maybe can I stay away from people. I would also say on the flip side of that, maybe people are also, and I would say maybe people are also valuing the time that they spend with somebody that, they've been in isolation for so long. It's it feels good to kind of talk to another person and everything like that. I'm still not going to rub shoulders with you, but it's good to be in a setting with other people that I feel safe in.
Right, and there was a comment, there's an interesting kind of comment line going on here. Because Keli charges $100 an hour. Dane, you're at $75 an hour. And I know that we're in different parts of the country, different expertise, but I got to tell you, if you don't value yourself and your time, they're not going to value you. Giovanni, we also had another question that I really loved. I'm not sure if it was Kimberly asked us about the pricing. Kimberly, we did go through the pricing and the webinar is recorded. Can you tell me, Giovanni, how are you advertising? I really love what you do. Giovanni does this newsletter and I love it because he's not only talking fitness, I get fitness and what his programming is, but at the bottom, I get to see him with his daughter and I get to see, get to know him a little bit. But what other advertising techniques are you using?
Yeah, so thanks for the plug. I'm gonna go with Kelly's comment first and foremost, and as simple as that sounds. Like if you have just one client, if you can get one client, then build your referrals from there. Your referral network will be the best source of advertising and marketing that you will ever have. And for me, it's personally worked well. I can't speak for our other experts, but I'm sure they have quite a bit of referrals as well over the years. And don't be afraid to ask your clients for a referral. It's just kind of Dane was talking about is, how are you bringing this up? How are you, pitching it, so to speak, where it's not really a pitch, but, if you have at least one person, which hopefully you end up, with help and mentors and everything, you have at least one or more than one, then you say, hey, anybody else that would be interested? And then before you know it, maybe you have someone who's interested in doing one-on-one, someone who's interested in doing group. So now you have, maybe a couple leads here in the group section, a couple people here in the personal training section, and then you ask, and then you keep asking for those referrals.
So it's pretty simple. I'm just going to go back. What you said was, do you know by any chance of anyone else who might want a trainer? And you ask for their email and their phone number, or maybe they'll just give your number to their friend. And it snowballs, Gio. And
if you're good enough, then they'll probably give you their number without you even asking. Because I've gotten it, and I'm sure everyone else has gotten it too, where a client will say, oh, hey, Gio, I gave my friend your phone number because he said he was looking for a trainer, or I gave him your email because he said he was looking for a trainer. That's the trust and rapport that you end up building with your clients as well. And for those of you who don't know what Sara was talking about, I have an email marketing list that I use that I do, every 2 months, or when I have something to say or advertise, I send out an email blast. I enjoy writing, so I do writing. I have a video of an exercise demonstrating it, teaching it. And then I have something personal, like Sara said, with my daughter. So it's not really that much of a hard sell. This is Gio, this is me. I like exercise. If you like exercise too, ask me about it, and then we could talk. So my pitch is very loose and very light. So I do use like email marketing as well. And even those are for past clients are on there, because you never know, now that a past client moved away, who cares? Now we're all training everybody from everywhere anyway. So you never know what, even if someone you've lost touch with could eventually be a potential lead now.
And Billy, what are your thoughts on getting the referrals? Because again, as a club owner, we're always transitioning. People are always coming, people are always going. And how do you get them to stick?
Yeah, I'll piggyback a little bit on what Gio said. I think it's a great point about sort of naturally getting referrals. And I think that's a good barometer on how you're doing. How are you doing at delivering your service? Because it's what people want. It happens naturally. They just can't help it. I can't believe this. Gio just sent me a gift, and he's my trainer, and he thanks me for coming, and he just really roots me on. I just have to share it because it's so good. That's a sign that you're doing well. That's not happening. That's probably a good way to start stimulating those referrals, by getting really good at the fundamentals. There's a difference between passive referrals, which is kind of what that is, and that's not a bad thing. We should be getting those. But then there's active referrals, and that's where Gio talked about just asking somebody. A good time to do that is when somebody shares their success. You know, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm down 7 pounds and I'm fitting in these new jeans. You know what? Give me a high five or a fist bump or however you want to do it. That's awesome. I'm so proud of you. Listen, who else do you know that would like to experience some similar benefits? And and then they'll start thinking, you have to kind of program them to a certain extent or systematize. And there's other things we do. One thing that works really well is if you could create some kind of item of value that your clients can share with their friends, because maybe there are people that they're not quite ready to call you, but you can start developing that relationship. Maybe you pass along something of value. Maybe it's an article, maybe it's a newsletter, as Gio said, or something. And then you just ask your clients to share it. And then all of a sudden you're building your list. And then from there, those conversations start happening and you're gradually leading that person towards the end goal, which is training at your facility or online.
And we're getting a lot of questions here about what cameras do you use? What videos do you use? It's pretty interesting because I have to tell you, all right, but who's using their computer right now for Zoom? Raise your hand. Okay, who's using their phone? Billy's using his phone. Yeah, Dane uses his phone. You know, some of us use iPads. You don't need to go out and spend $5,000 on a camera or $3,000 or $500. You've already spent almost $1,000 on your phone, between $500 and $1,000, and you turn it horizontal and you've got a beautiful camera. The one thing you want to think about is getting some type of stand. These are so cheap on Amazon. There she goes. There goes, and I love it. And Keli, that you can wrap it around things because it bends. So she can even take it in the gym. And you do not need to spend a lot of money. I got a ring light, and you know what works better? Just a light, a regular lamp with a white shade. Gives you a really nice, fresh glow. Peter, I'm going to ask you if you'd put in the chat box the virtual training online certification program that we have, because it's one thing, it's very cheap, and it gives you a lot of these simple advice. I cannot believe we're like almost out of time. This is wrong. We have to do this again. We're going to do this again. Maybe we'll make it a full session at Mania, but I can't believe we're almost out of time. I'm going to go a few minutes over. I hope nobody minds. I'm going to ask you guys, just give me your closing remarks about being able to train online and live, and give me your forecast. When do you think we'll be out of this, and what is it going to look like? Yeah, in 30 seconds or less. All right, Dane, that was an attractive facial expression you gave there. So you're first.
30 seconds. Here we go. Let's try to tie it up. Again, in conclusion, remember, guys, don't just keep grabbing a lot of tools and weighing yourself down with a heavy tool belt. You got to build something at some stage of the game. Put hammer to nail. And that's going to be, again, thinking about what's your now to wow transformation. And then also, again, how are you going to get yourself with systems that's going to run the business so you can do what you do well, and that's change lives and that's train. I believe, again, going forward, again, this pandemic has shifted a lot of mindsets, and I don't see us going back to some old ways. I think it's going to be a hybrid of us doing in-person and virtual. So set yourself up that you're knocking off and you're checking boxes in both models.
Yes, and Giovanni?
Yeah, so I'll piggyback off Dane, as I always do every single webinar, and we haven't said it in this term, is find a lane, right? Find your lane, right? You can't be everything to everybody. You know, you don't want to have on your business card, you work with elderly people, and then you also work with, middle school athletes. That's kind of weird. Like, even though it's possible, find your lane, find what you want to do, and then try to get really good at doing that. And then one thing I also want to mention is, what do you need at this point? And Dane kind of touched on this before. There's so many different softwares. There's you can get sucked into, hey, buy my software for training groups or training personal trainers, and you can have all these videos and you can program design and all this. Do you even need that? Like, maybe you could just get away with some of your clients just training face to face. I saw someone said they bought a webcam. that's awesome if you need it. And I'm sure you need it. That's why you bought it. But maybe you don't need a webcam. So, you know, get comfortable with realizing that what do you actually need at this point? Do you need to open up an LLC? What's the difference between an LLC and an S Corp? That whole, you know, and then, you know, Kelly Roberts is incorporated, and, you know, and learn that whole, you know, vernacular as well. Great.
And Billy?
I'm going to piggyback off of Dane and Gio and say that I'm all about goal setting. I'm a huge goal setter, and I think it's great. However, we got to just take one step at a time. So those little wins add up. So just figuring out what is that next step, give yourself a timeline, and take action. Nothing beats action. And to answer the question about when it's going to be normal, I think we're asking the wrong question. There's a quote from Jack Welch. He said, "Don't waste a good opportunity like a good recession." So what he's saying there is that there's two different kinds of people. There's the kind of people that are waiting for things to go back and then they're going to take action, or there's the people that say, screw that, I'm taking action now. This is my time. Why not me?
That's great. That's great. And Kelly, wind it up, girl.
Okay. Well, I'd have to agree with everyone, but I know for myself, I'm going to be staying with a hybrid model. I can't imagine that things are going to go back anytime soon where I am, and I'm really enjoying the little bit of backyard training that I'm doing and all of the virtual training that I'm doing. And I think that I'm going to continue to do that hybrid approach because I've found that my virtual clients are really enjoying and benefiting from that type of training with me. And I'm enjoying my virtual classes. And so I'm going to really stick with the hybrid.
Very nice. Love that. Love that. You know what? When in doubt, just do both. All right, guys, I'm going to end with a short little video here. So here we go. Very cool. So you guys can, if you want to look for any of the equipment, all of our equipment at SCW is 50% off. Why? I don't know why. I think I'm just like have this riddled with this Jewish guilt, and I just feel so bad for everybody in the industry. But it's a great way to buy stuff yourself and sell it to your clients or give it to your clients because it's very affordable. All right, guys, that's about it. I really want to thank you, Kelly, Billy, Giovanni, and Dane. I want to thank Peter for helping us. I want to thank all of you for joining us. Don't worry, everything's going to be recorded. You'll get an email tomorrow with the recording, and we'll also put links in there for the waiver of liability that you guys, a few of you have been asking about. So take care. Have a good night. Hang in there. We're getting through this. We're going to get through this. Thank you all.